Get it together, Sam.
It's together. It's together. I'm still excited.
9-1 together here.
Yeah.
It feels like every time we start this thing, we say, never a doubt.
Never.
Had it in the bag.
No problems.
Never thought about it. And that was not the case last night.
I'm ready to play again. I can't wait for Sunday. I'm ready to go.
The 9-1 Birds as of last night is the Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and our friends at Banko Beverage Company. We are live here at Ringer's Roost in Allentown.
Yes.
A good lunch crowd going on right now, certainly. I'm sure we see a lot of birds in the crowd today after a good win last night. So you walk away, away from that game feeling what?
Wow. I guess you can say I don't want to say shocked, but I do want to say shocked because of the first half. Unbelievable. There's no way this could have happened going into halftime. Honestly, I thought, all right, if we can find a way to keep this close and maybe not be embarrassed. Every thought was going through my mind, but relieved. Relieved is how I feel right now, just from the first half performance last night, where the game could have gone, but it didn't go.
Sure.
Large part of the defense.
Yeah, and I think it was frustration definitely at certain points in the night for sure. But, man, Jalen Hurts just keeps finding ways to win football games. All the stats are coming out about him being down 10 points and 7 games in a row where they've been down 10 and he's been able to bring them back for a win. You know, you look at just the Nick Sirianni his entire coaching tenure here. He loses that game against the Chargers. Fans are throwing flowers on the field because of his speech about flowers and letting and they've been killing it ever since. And then to go into Arrowhead, they alluded to it a ton in the broadcast last night. Teams don't come into Arrowhead, especially in the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era, wins the way that they did last. They did just that.
You know, I also heard the last time the Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs, our quarterback was I just lost his name now. I just lost the name, and I had
what year? Let's throw it back.
2009.
2009 with Kevin Cobb.
There it is. It was Kevin Cobb.
That's right. He had a day that day.
Yes.
He had back-to-back weeks.
Yes.
Against the Chiefs and the Saints, where he went bananas. And then ultimately came back down to earth.
A little bit, you think.
Because he filled in for Donovan, and then, it obviously went from there. But,
Mm-hmm.
I said last week when we were getting ready for the game against Kansas City, I was going to be really fascinated to see what the Eagles' offensive approach was in that first half with Dallas Goedert out. And they addressed that a ton last night in the broadcast. Troy Aikman kept saying they're coming out in 4 wide receivers. They don't do this. Single back sets, empty back quite a bit. And it was kind of fascinating to see how they were going to try to facilitate offense because then Grant Calcaterra gets hurt.
Yeah, that hurt.
Jack Stoll, not the big pass-catching tight end that nobody's Dallas Goedert at this point, right?
No.
So, but they managed to kind of hold it down. They stayed patient. I know I was certainly frustrated with some of the calls, some of the screens, some of the third down decisions, but at the end of the day, this team found a way to win.
The whole tight end situation, go back to Dallas Goedert being out. Wow. Give this guy whatever he wants in his next contract because it's not that easy just to put Jack Stoll in and act like nothing happened, I guess, as your backup tight end. But maybe this is something you try next week. Just plug him in just to see what happens. I know he's no Dallas Goedert. Like you said, nobody's a Dallas Goedert. But instead of trying the 4 receiver set that is not the Eagles offense, maybe you plug Jack Stoll in there and maybe you tell him, do your best Dallas Goedert imitation as much as I know he's not the same guy. You're asking him to be something he's not. I get that. But maybe, just maybe, because the way the offense, in the first half last night and much of the game, maybe something can start, maybe something different would happen. We don't know unless we see it. That's just my opinion. That's to say, Jack, do your best Dallas Goedert imitation. Go. It's all you.
Sure. And it felt like, we talked last week that I thought Julio Jones was going to be maybe a little bit more of I think he only ended up with that 1 catch for basically no yards.
2 yards or something, yeah.
But that he maybe was going to try to fill that Dallas Goedert pass-catching option. I think they were trying a lot of different things there. as much as it felt like they were kind of running the same things over and over again, it felt like they were trying to do maybe the same play, but just package it a little differently.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of approach that going forward. But yeah, the defense, really the big story in the game here. You give up 17 in the first half. Chiefs hadn't scored a ton of points when we were talking. They'd only scored last week. We mentioned they'd only scored over 30 twice so far this season.
Right.
They were up on the Dolphins. Dolphins come back. They ultimately win that game 21-14, but they haven't been this big explosive offense that they've been historically. The defense showed up. They make a big play. The punch out by Bradley Roby on Travis Kelce
my gosh.
certainly changed the game. And look, say what you want as a non-Eagles fan. You could say what you want, like, oh,
Sure.
the Chiefs dropped the ball. The investment that I get frustrated with that because the Chiefs have made a conscious effort not to invest. And I get their quarterback takes up whatever it is, 20 to 25% of their salary, but they made it a point to go on the lower end of salary for wide receivers. The Eagles, on the other hand, give A.J. Brown a big old contract, give Devontae Smith that first round money. That's the difference in the game. Marquez Valdez-Scantling felt sick for the guy, felt terrible for the guy that he drops that ball, but he drops it. Flip the other side. Devontae Smith gets open, makes a huge catch. Jalen Hurts alluded to the late hands, makes a great play, doesn't give it up to the defensive back that he's getting ready to make a catch, makes that play. That ultimately is the big play that works a touchdown that follows.
And you know what, too, going back to the drop, in the end zone or, for the Chiefs go-ahead score, there was still, a lot of people don't realize, there was still a minute and a half left in the game. So that would not have been, the Eagles, the way the Eagles were moving the offense, the Eagles really only needed, I think they would have been down by 3 at that point. So that would not have necessarily been the game, as so many people are saying. Chiefs would have won if he caught that. Not necessarily. Eagles are moving the ball on offense now. Only needed 3 with a minute and a half to go with, I think, 1 or 2 timeouts. So, again, your point about the receivers, Jason Kelce, have a blow-up game that I think we all thought he was going to have. You double up Jason Kelce a little bit and
Travis Kelce.
I'm sorry, Travis Kelce.
I'm only correcting you because Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce, obviously.
I didn't even
the
realize
Eagles.
I said
Right. No, you're okay.
Oh my gosh. Travis Kelce didn't have the game of his life last night, which we weren't sure if he would. Obviously, didn't have the game like he had in the Super Bowl. But you double that guy up a little bit, you punch the ball out, and you take away their best wide receiver by far, like you were mentioning before. And the defense again. Look what happened. I think I'm still concerned over Bradbury a little bit, and even Darius Slay. There's still a couple things that their corners. A little questionable, but they had to do what they did.
I think they just showed up. They didn't let Patrick Mahomes throw off of the platform, get his feet set. And then even at that, he's dangerous making those throws out of the pocket and making those kinds of plays.
Yep.
They weren't successful in throws. Travis Kelce, the one play that would have been a big play, or Justin Watson, I think it was. But that's because of you're generating up front. They did it a ton. Josh Sweat obviously forces the intentional grounding at the end of the game.
That was huge.
But just a big play. And great to see the special teams show up. Windy night, rough night, not great. Britton Covey, not easy to catch punts in those conditions. Excellent last night, getting the ball down the field. Braden Mann had kind of a knuckleball punt to start. After that was great. Got the hold down on the one extra point. That was really important there for the last touchdown. So, certainly a lot of players. It wasn't – I think that's where I find solace isn't the right word, but come away feeling like, okay, it wasn't the prettiest game, but it felt like every guy at some point had a play in the game. It wasn't an overwhelming offensive game. It wasn't an overwhelming defensive game, but every player throughout the game kind of had a moment that made you go, okay, this guy's showing up at a time. We can put that together all at once as we start to go down the season. This team's going to be a really big problem for people to take care of.
Who I was impressed with last night, and he's a veteran, and he's up there in age, but man, was he hustling at Fletcher Cox. The way he was hustling last night, did he lose a step? He may have lost more than a step. I think we all get that, and we're all fine with that. But the way the guy was hustling last night, didn't want to be taken out of the game, wanted to continue to play. I think he had to catch his breath, every now and again. But the way he was, and I saw where he was beat on the one sideline play where Mahomes looks like he could have been stopped for no gain, and he actually gained 14 just because Fletcher couldn't catch up to him. But, man, he was playing his you-know-what off last night. I was proud of Fletcher Cox. It was a tough game for him. But
Penalty can't happen.
No, you're right.
Penalty
you're right.
can't
it cannot
happen.
And it was a legitimate penalty. Looking back, it was.
It was really the shove.
Yeah.
Like, you could say what you want about is your helmet at his chin, is your helmet at his shoulder pads, he threw Patrick Mahomes like off of his feet at the end of that. Fletch knows that. He knows. I'm sure at that point in the game he was pretty frustrated with how things were going. But nonetheless, they recuperate. They give up. That was 28 yards that ultimately was after being pinned down deep.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Chiefs make a drive. Eagles force a fumble and are able to come away with a win. And they talked about it quite a bit in the game last night about how teams in the NFC were watching that game, especially as the Chiefs were kind of going a little bit, saying, "Ooh, this might be the chance to catch the Eagles." Right. Cowboys, Niners, Lions, all coming off of wins this weekend. And the Eagles, man, get hit in the mouth, but are just able to deliver the knockout blow to hold on to that spot in the number 1 seed in the NFC.
And I know, look, we weren't, as Eagle fans, I'm sure I wasn't the only Eagle fan watching the games over the weekend thinking, oh, boy, how tough it's going to be tomorrow night, meaning last night. Oh, Dallas already has that. Oh, this could be, Dallas could be a half a game back, in the loss, or a game back in the loss column. This can get really, really, interesting. But, hey, you know what? Maybe Washington pulls a surprise off on Thanksgiving Day and ends up beating Dallas, who, at this point at 9-1, we can't even worry about other teams. Just worry about where the Eagles are. I know we have to keep looking back, but it's at this point, being the best record in the NFL and 9-1, man, just do what you got to do. Yeah. Control yourself.
Yeah, and you mentioned Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if Washington made that a football game. Yeah, they've been doing it all season. Yeah. Take the games for whatever reason, the Giants have just had their number this season. But go back, they're on the road in Seattle. That's a 29-26 game. They've played some good games. They've played some tough games. When Atlanta was kind of rolling early in the season, they went into Atlanta and beat Atlanta in Atlanta. So they're a team that I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying they're going to win.
No, I know what you're saying, yeah.
But it's a game that I would not be surprised at all if the Cowboys were a little bit sleepy coming out of that, a little bit too much tryptophan.
Right.
That Washington can make that a football game. And if that is the case and have a chance to win it at the end, they came into Philadelphia and lost that game in overtime. They played really well on the road this season. Would not be surprised if they made that a game on Thanksgiving Day.
And their quarterback, I believe, didn't he go like 19 for 19 against the Eagles?
Sure.
In the second.
Started crazy hot. So,
he's pretty good quarterback, pretty young quarterback.
And then you've got Seattle and San Francisco as the night game. So,
right.
Are you going to get Geno Smith? Are you going to get Drew Lock for the Seahawks?
Yep.
Or are you going to get, what kind of Seahawks team are you going to get? They're coming off of stumbling a little bit this past week in a game. They had a chance to win it at the end. Had a chance to kick a field goal and win at the end.
Yeah.
Didn't work out for them. So that's a huge game in the NFC West. And certainly it would probably feel good for Eagles fans for a team to not let the 49ers start to get hot, because as good as the Eagles have looked, when the 49ers have been right this season, they have looked really, really good.
And they haven't. And, getting Chase Young obviously helps them on defense, but they just lost. Can't think of his name. He was it's either safety or their linebacker that they just lost for the year, San Francisco. But ACL, I think he has the ACL.
Yes, yeah.
That's a huge loss for the Niners. But
the safety.
Yes, the safety.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I think Brock Purdy, didn't he have the perfect quarterback rating on Sunday? He's turning into a really good quarterback. And I don't know, looking down the road, what is it, 2 weeks away? We have San Francisco. It's going to be fun game in Philadelphia.
Which kind of brings me to my point of, I don't think this team does, but it feels like that Buffalo game could be a little bit of kind of, are we looking ahead a little bit?
I know.
Because on the other side of that are two really huge games. And Buffalo changes offensive coordinators and put it on a really good Jets defense this week. So what kind of Buffalo team are you going to get? Are you going to get a confident, we're back kind of Buffalo team? Or are you going to get the Buffalo team that's kind of been Jekyll and Hyde all season long coming into Lincoln Financial Field?
Especially Josh Allen. Is he going to, be a turnover machine, or is he going to be the Josh Allen that's going to scramble and do a little Mahomes here and there and everything? But I'll tell you why the Eagles are going to be fine. It's Kelly Green Sunday at the Lynx, so we're going to be
It
just
is.
fine. So, everything's going to work out for the Birds.
Kelly Green Sunday should be. It's kind of a holiday. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our Thanksgiving. I feel like.
Yes.
It is a CAC Under 96 Birds recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles. We are here at Ringer's Roost in Allentown. We had a great time doing the show from
Barry
last year. Yeah, Barry.
Very good, buddy.
That's why we can't take that guy anywhere.
That's right.
But a great atmosphere here, as always. Big thanks to our friends at Miller Lite and Banko Beverage Company for having us out here. So, yeah, it turns to Buffalo, and now you sit. Man, there's just – Baltimore now leads the AFC. You look at some of the teams that are kind of quote-unquote in the playoff picture. You look at teams that have lost quarterbacks. It just feels again, it hasn't been the prettiest season for Birds fans, but, man, when you look around at what's kind of going on around the league this year, how do you argue with 9-1?
You can't. You can't at all. But we will find a way.
Sure.
We will find a way, any way possible to argue with 9-1.
Of course.
Same record as they were last year, and they made a couple of points last night too. The stats last year were prettier, than they are this year. But they're playing harder teams this year. One of the ones I was looking at was how is Hassan Reddick not having a good year as he was last year? So I looked at the stats today. The guy has 8.5 sacks. Micah Parsons has 10.
Yeah.
So I think, Mike, Reddick is having a pretty darn good year this year. It's just that for some reason it's getting lost in the middle of everything, and I don't know why that is. I know we brought that up a couple of shows ago.
I think because they were they went through a stretch early on last season. We keep talking about it, where they got sacks and turnovers in bunches through a really big stretch of the season last year. And it's still happening. It's still coming, just like you said. I think he's ahead of his own pace of sacks at this time last year. It just hasn't been in the big waves. Again, to the point I alluded to earlier, it's just been guy makes a play here, guy makes a play there. We're bending, but we're not breaking. We're bending, but we're not breaking. Oh, somebody makes a play. Bending, but we're not breaking. Oh, somebody makes a play. Versus that stretch last season where they just went through a period of time where on both sides of the ball, they were just crushing it.
Can we say now with confidence that, yes, we did beat quarterbacks that are very, very good. We did beat some good teams this year. Oh, well, you didn't face any quarterbacks last year. Well, you know what? I think we can put that to rest now and say the Eagles can beat some teams with good quarterbacks. Yeah. And last night was the perfect example. If you need to go beyond that, that's fine. But I think, we can finally put that to rest. Yeah. Yeah, and they're going to have their tests coming up. Look, you took And a credit to Sean Desai. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes and Arrowhead. Yeah. We're talking about a healthy Dak Prescott and a healthy Cowboys offense. We're talking about Matthew Stafford with Puka Nacua in the first week of Cooper Kupp back. He's faced some pretty vaunted Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson healthy. Sure. Jefferson got his numbers. Kirk Cousins got his numbers. Eagles pull out a win. Yep. CeeDee Lamb gets his numbers. Dak Prescott gets his numbers. Eagles pull out a win. So, again, it hasn't been sexy. It hasn't been the undefeated Patriots of 2000, whatever that was. But look at how that season ended for them. Right. You just have to have the ball rolling in your direction a little bit. Make the plays when you get the chance to make the plays, and who knows? Maybe we saw a preview and a rematch all in one last night. We'll have to wait and see. We could have. That's we mentioned the Ravens. They're a very scary team that can knock off anybody. Who knows? Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Yep. Who knows? There's still a ton of football to play. It's a CAC Country 96 Bird recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends at Banko Beverage Company. Buffalo in town next week. A lot of 425 games. You and I were talking about primetime games, so there's still primetime against Dallas. The good news is, for us early morning folk, they're not going to flex a 425 to an 8 o'clock game. 425 is going to be the game of the week, so typically whatever it is. So will they ultimately get flexed in maybe that second Giants game or the Arizona game if there's something really big on the line? I would doubt it. I would doubt that'll be a primetime game, but who knows? But 425 next weekend for the Birds and Bills. And it's going to be fun. Certainly one that we're all looking forward to. And Kelly Green, because why not? It's Kelly Green. Oh, we still have some stuff to give away. Right. I was just going to say that, as a matter of fact. We are here at Ringer's Roost. We've got some Eagles. There was a little bit of snow in Allentown today. Yeah. If you were peeking, a little bit of snow. A little bit of snow.
We've got some winter caps to give out. We've got some Eagles green, Kelly green T-shirts to give out here as well.
Oh my God!
We're going to be hanging out here a little longer. Go Birds! I think it's the most
Go
important
Birds!
thing. And yeah, so we'll be here at Ringers Roost, but that's going to wrap us up this time around. Sam Malone, 9-1.
Rocky man, I'll take 9-1.
Go Birds! Thank you to Ringers Roost for letting us kick it here with them. Big shout out once again to Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and our friends at Banko Beverage Company. See my guy Tony back there.
Is he back there?
Tony's
Hey,
right back there.
Tony.
Hey Tony.